So this came in the mail the other day, but I don't think it's from Costa. Let's see what it is. It's a new vise. So this here's my new vise. It is a Woden 89 number 1, and well, this is it, I suppose. It comes equipped with a quick release lever, which works. Pretty sure it works. Just I can only kind of use it upside down, and it's a bit stiff, and I'm guessing it's something to do with gravity. But I really hope that works. However, it does have a big weld here, so obviously it broke somehow on the previous owner. I didn't think that was possible for a vise to break, but maybe just a crack developed and they got scared. But anyway, I have it now, so hopefully it doesn't break. Now this thing is an absolute beast. It weighs maybe 10-11 kilos, so I know it's good quality, especially for the size of it. And I thought it would be interesting to compare it to my other vices. So I'm going to measure some stats on this and then compare it to my other ones. So I have 4 different categories, and the first of which is the throat depth, and that is the maximum depth of piece of material or work you can get in, which will measure from the bar to the top of the jaw. So in this case it is 3 inches exactly. Second category is jaw width, and that is from the total of one edge to the other without any extensions. In this case it is 7 inches. Third category is maximum capacity without extensions, and in this case it is 7 and an 1/8 inch. 7 and an 1/8 inch. Fourth category is material, and I can tell that on this vise the 2 jaws are made of cast iron, and this magnet is able to prove that, and the rest of it is made from regular iron or steel, but I know the jaws are cast iron. So this is the woodworking vise which I currently have, and it is tiny, like it's just really small. And on top of that, it's rubbish. This is the front jaw. It racks, it slides. Now it slides back and forth, but that's alright because when you close it it's tight. But just it racks, it's loose, it's just rubbish. Which is why I've in fact bought the new one. This is the other vise that I use. It's quite small, but it is a beast and I love it. No complaints. I've used it for over 5 years and I've never had any problems with it. It is a Paramo number 2 high duty vise. I don't know what high stands for. It's just HI, but anyway. So these are all the stats for the 3 vices. This is the metalworking, the small woodworking and the new woodworking. They all increase in size because Woden is the largest in all retrospects. Magnuson, medium in all respects, and Paramo, smallest in all respects. And funny enough, this is the one I use the most often. This is the one I've just bought. This one I hate. It is bigger than this one, but yeah, this one is better because it is stronger. Because a weak vise isn't a vise, because the entire point of a vise is for it to be strong and durable. And this is just rubbish. So I'm in the middle of building my new workbench, and before I secure on the tops, I want to attach the vise that I've got. So this is the new vise I've got, and I want to put it on, but I haven't taken any consideration of how it's going to attach, and I haven't designed the bench to attach the vise. So I kind of need to come up with a makeshift solution. Now the standard method for applying a vise is just to whack it onto the apron, but as you see, if I do that, it is too short, and also it's nowhere near deep enough. So it's pretty heavy. I'm going to use this block, going to attach the vise to this block, and then attach this block to the apron, and that will jut it out enough, and it'll also adjust the height of it so that it can sit pretty close to the edge of the bench. Now this piece is obviously a bit long, so I'm going to chop it to length. I have to admit, I did a pretty bad job of lining those 2 saw cuts up. Now if I were to use the vise as is, it sticks out quite a bit over the edge of the bench. And I kind of don't like that, so I'm going to change it. Now you mightn't have thought it was actually sticking out that much, but by the time you add the thickness of the two jaws, it sticks it out another 3/4 of an inch, and you really want the vise as close as you can to the frame to make it nice and sturdy. So I'm going to take the block that I've just cut out and cut out a notch so that it can sit up right against like this to get the vise even further back. So I'm going to mount the vise to the block of wood just by using some big bolts, and these are just regular bolts, and I'm not even going to put threaded inserts in because I've never used them. I've always just drilled straight into the wood, and it can hold at least my body weight on a single bolt, and that is more than enough. Now I'm drilling a hole for an M10 bolt, and the M10 means that the diameter of the bolt is 10mm. So you should drill a 9mm hole, and that's nice and snug. But it's only snug. I did some tests and there's a tiny bit of play, so I'm going to go with an 8 instead. With the holes drilled, I can now set on the vise and thread in the bolts. I did pre-drive these in so it's a bit easier. I've attached 3 of the bolts and got to the 4th when I realised I'd somehow completely misaligned the hole. No clue how, but it is so sturdy, I think it should be fine. So as is, the vise is lovely because it comes out nice and deep, but that also means it goes back nice and deep. And it's a bit too long, so I'm going to chop it off a bit. Look at that, it's a vise in a vise. Anyway. No, I'm not actually taking a chunk off the vise. That'll be a crime punishable by death. Instead, I'm just going to take a chunk out of the apron. I could use regular bolts again and probably work completely fine, but for some added strength I'm going to use some thunderbolts. Now these are usually attached into concrete as I've done with these shelves, but they have a really nice coarse thread on them, so it's basically a giant wood screw, and I think that should do. Now some people are going to argue that this is great at surface area, therefore it's better, but the ridges on this is very small and these ones are big and chunky, so I'm going to use these. I've marked up some very strategically placed holes, 2 on the top, so that when the vise wants to pivot down, it won't because there's 2 bolts holding it, and then 1 on the bottom because if they were to break for some unknown reason, it would act as a pivot. But these 2 are more important, which is why they're on the top. I've tightened the bolts just far enough that they stick out a wee bit. So if I put the vise in place and give it, let's see, I have to get it perfectly right. So there's about level, down a bit, up a bit, and shove it in. There's my points. Now I can see where to drill. Now currently the back mounting pieces of the vise stick out from the block, so I can just stick on a wee spacer and then it'll fit better. With the vise securely attached, I can now cover it up with the workbench top. Juts out a bit more than anticipated. Now I'm quite sure that this wooden block attachment is very strong because if I shake it, the whole bench shakes. It's just really firmly attached. Now I don't think I'll ever question the strength, but if I was to, all I need to do is bolt it to the top of the table, which is bolted to the frame, which will add even more strength. But even with this, 4 or 5 inches or what, that it sticks out, it is firmly rigid. So that's a good idea because I made the idea. Now what I find funny about this vise, I'm not sure if it's defective or something, but the quick release works kind of for pulling out, but not for pushing in. So I can pull it out quick release, but to get it back in, I just have to wind it. And I don't know if that's that inconvenient, but it's inconvenient. So the vise is all finished up, but I'm still working on this new workbench. And, oh, speaking of a new workbench, yes, it is a new workbench created by myself with my own designs and all. It's nice and rigid, laterally, torsionally, and compression-y. All of the forces, it can resist them all. So that will be next week. That will be about there when it's done. But yeah, you should look at that video when it comes out. It's a really good workbench. It's also kind of like noisy outside because there's a snowstorm, which is like incredibly rare, but it's a snowstorm.